right. Hello everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We're going to do a quick tutorial on building a plugin using classes. I have done a little bit of this before, but I think it's worth reiterating, and I'm always learning more, so hopefully I can show you more. We'll start real quick by showing you what we're building here today. We are going to be creating a battle HUD that looks like this. So we have our stats on the left, we have a portrait of our hero here, and then we have our enemies in the center. We can do standard attacks. I'm not going to go through the whole battle, but this is what it's going to look like. This is what we're building. All right, let's go through it. Let's see. First of all, so there's a lot you can simply do with pictures. That background is just a picture that is sized properly for my game, and then saved to BattleBax 1, which you can pull over here. You go to BattleBax 1, and then save it however you'd like, and that's really it. It's that simple. So what's the name of this? This is 00 black box. So yeah, there it is saved, and then I just set that as the BattleBack in the engine. Specify BattleBack, black box, boom. All right, so we have our initial black box done just as an image, nice and easy. Next up, we're going to go ahead and make sure that our plugin that we're using is in our manager. So in this case, it's my AML underscore battle stats window. That should have actually updated. I'm not sure. There we go. Adds a dragon quest-like interface. There we go. So we have our plugin on. We just wanted to make sure that was true. Then we're going to go over to our coding editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code. I highly recommend it. It's works in Windows, Mac, and Linux just fine. Has lots of plugins. Is a very useful editor. Okay, so like always, at the top we have our JS documentation, which is what allows the editor to display all of this information. So everything you're seeing here, so all of that, the author, that's all created with that JS doc. It's technically optional, but it is organizing. It'll help people understand what the plugin's for. Okay, next up, I create an object. This object is called AML, and it either uses what already exists in memory, or it creates a new one. Within that object, I create another object called BattleStats win. So that just gives us a container to hold everything as we need. Okay, then we have this kind of funky bit of code that creates a self-running and contained function. This is to protect our code from damaging other people's plugins. So we have a parentheses, a anonymous function, and then down at the bottom we have the close of the function, the close of the parentheses, and a set of parentheses to tell it to run. Pretty simple, although it does look kind of weird. All right, so within our anonymous function, we create a helper function called getWinLH. LH stands for line height. This comes from the unpro. It's a great little helper function. It takes a parameter called mult for multiply, or multiple, and it returns the line height times our multiple. Again, thanks to the unpro for that wonderful little bit of helper code. Next, we're going to create a class called AML custom window, extends window base. So what that means is our class is called this, and it downloads, for lack of a better way to put it, all the information and functions within the window-based function from RPG Maker. Then we create a constructor, which is a method that runs automatically when a instance of our class is created. It takes in an x and y position, a width and height for our window, and a function that runs when we call refresh. Next up, we call super, which calls the constructor for window base. We pass in what it needs, which is the xy window and height. Width and height, excuse me. Then we say that each instance will have their own refresh function, which is the refresh function. Then we call this.refresh. Refresh is a method that we define down here, and all it does is call that refresh function. So this is how we make each window unique. Next up, we are going to alias the scene battle.prototype.start. So remember, aliasing is so that we can add to the code of the engine without overriding it directly. So we are overriding it, but we're making sure the original runs first. This helps with compatibility. It's hard to knock off there. So then we're going to say scene battle start.apply. This just runs the runs the base scene battle with any arguments that we've applied and applies our code as well. Then we're going to add in our extra bits. So in this case, we're going to say this.amlstats window, so this is just a container, equals a new instance of our class. And then we have x, y, width, height, and height we're using our helper function for line height times 7. And then our anonymous function that's going to be our refresh function. In this case, what we are going to do is clear the contents of the window. We are going to draw some text. In the center, it's going to be strength plus the attack value of actor 1. Then same for defense, same for int, same for spirit, same for agility, and same for luck. This gives us all of our data in our window. One moment. Sorry again about all the coughing. Then we are going to create a portrait window. Again, it's an instance of our class. It has an x, y, width, and height. And then it has its own anonymous function for the refresh function. And what it does is it clears it and then finds the actor in our party, draws their face, and that's it. So by creating a class and with its own sort of function that runs, we can have as many windows as we like, really, really easy to set up. And then we simply add them to the beginning of our battle. So this.addChild, our stats window, and our portrait window. So that's it. Now, keep in mind that the two windows I made, they're just examples. You could have your window do whatever you want it to. As long as it has the x, y, width, and height, your refresh function, sky's the limit, whatever you like it to do. Now, why do we use classes instead of just doing it procedurally or with functions? I'll show you. So notice that this is, including the JS doc, 101 lines of code. And it's very clean. It's very easy to understand, I hope. If we did it the old way, the way that you would have done it without classes, it would look like this. So just taking an immediate look, you'll notice, well, it's not that much bigger. It's 116 lines. But it is, at least to me, a lot more confusing. So we have the same beginning, but then we have a function instead of a class for our stats window. And this initialize.apply, and then we have to mess around with prototypes to create objects, which is the old way of doing sort of classes or object-oriented programming in JavaScript. And to me, it's very messy. It's kind of hard to read. I'm not sure what prototype means most of the time. Like, I know what the word means, but in the context of coding, it's always seemed weird to me. You have to go through and create each. So within each object, you're creating various functions to get what you want it to do. And then you have to start over and do all of it over again. So in terms of the idea of don't repeat yourself or dry as a programming concept, this is awful because you just end up repeating yourself all the way through. So that is why we do it with classes whenever possible. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and then go to the top. So again, you can kind of pause it if you need to. There's there's our class created. There is our first window created and all of the stats. There is our second window created. And then there is our, there it is being added to the scene. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful. Nothing really complex, but I think being able to build out something useful with classes in a 10-20 minutes is really it's really great. It's a real powerful aspect of RPG Maker that you can do something useful that quickly that is visual. Once again, this is what we built with it. You see everything on the screen. Everything is placed nicely. It doesn't get in the way of the game engine or what the player is doing. The only thing that I found that I didn't care for was I am using some Yanfly plugins. That's what's making them breathe, for instance. And there's one that I really like called Victory Aftermath that shows sort of a stat like growth screen. I have not been able to figure out how to make my custom windows disappear when the battle's over, so I can't use that growth screen because they're still sitting there. But the basic one here isn't terrible. All right. hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. If you look in the description, there is a link to all of my plugins, including this one. I highly encourage you to download it, give it a whirl, and see what you can do with it. All right, thanks. Bye.